So, hello and welcome. My name's Steve Nobel, and today I'm speaking with Ireland Clark on why I stopped worshipping the moon. So, Ireland is a YouTuber, got a great channel actually, and a consciousness coach. She teaches everything about the universe, starseeds, soul healing, ascension. She's a hypnotherapist, plant-based nutritionist, and she's based in Florida. And you can find her on Facebook and YouTube, and I'll put some links out with this recording. So, hi, Ireland.
Hello, thanks for having me, Steve.
Oh, lovely to speak with you. Now, yeah, when I saw your post on Facebook, I was like, oh, wow, there's another person talking about the moon the way I like to talk about it. And being a woman, and you'll have that woman's perspective, especially on things like menstruation, which we'll get to later. I think it'll be really useful to people to hear you rather than just hearing a guy, talking about it and going, you're just a guy, you haven't got a womb. We've got to suffer this stuff, Anyway. So I read on your post your first experience of working with the moon spiritually and magically. Can you just say a little bit about how you kind of started doing all the stuff?
Yeah, so when I first came into spirituality, that was a big thing, is the new moons and the full moon rituals. And I was like, wow, I got to start aligning to these rituals. And whatever a post would tell me how to feel about the specific ritual, I would start feeling that energy. And then, using the moon's power, I would do things such as create things, manifest things, drink moon water, put crystals, water out in the moon, drink the water the next day, just praying to the moon, just being like, moon, I want to bring this into existence. And I was so just in depth with the moon, just so connected to the moon. Like, this moon is helping me create my reality. And every time the full moon and the new moons would come, I would just instantly change whatever I was feeling to whatever the full moon or the new moon meant, and be like, oh, well, it's the full moon, I must be letting things go. Oh, it's the new moon, I'm creating something. And that was my life for the past 3 or 4 years.
Right. Yeah. I think I mentioned before before I chat that I was in Wicca for like 10 years doing the 10 years I worked with the cycle of new moon, full moon, dark moon. I worked with it and I did all kinds of magical stuff. And it is powerful, isn't it? The energy is strong. It's quite strong.
It is.
But something is off we both felt something eventually something's off and we don't want to go there anymore. So you kind of mentioned in your blog, which I really like this piece, you said, I later realized this moon I've been worshipping was actually an inorganic structure and satellite, an amplifier of distorted energies that power up this matrix, this kind of false matrix. What about that? Can you say something more about that? Because, most people look at the moon and go, oh, isn't it beautiful? Let's go on a date under the full moon, have a glass of wine. And we're talking about, no, it's not what you think it is. What do you think it is?
Yeah, so that's what I thought. I thought it's just, you go to school, they teach you about the moon, you're like, oh, it's natural. But in reality, it's not natural at all. It's an inorganic structure that the Archon breeds brought in to this matrix system in order to act as a satellite amplifier. So this is high-tech technology. You have to understand these archonic breeds are very highly intelligent, and they know how to distort frequencies. They know how to create certain technologies in order to control mass amounts of people. So what this satellite is doing is it's amplifying distortions from the Saturn black cube matrix, the rings around Saturn, the Lord of the Rings. So the Saturn Satan rings of distortion are hitting the moon at a certain angle. And then the moon actually acts as a satellite amplifier and projects with the magnetic poles of dark matter onto the earth, because they know that they can control the certain grid ley lines and axitonial lines of this planetary system through distortion in the rod and staff of the masculine and feminine Godhead. So what they're doing is they're distorting the staff energies of the female, of the divine feminine. So it's the lunar matrix. It's the distorted female energy that they're projecting so that we can't have that unification, that divine feminine, divine masculine, herogamic union. They want to keep everything running in reversals. So that is what the Saturn projects onto the moon and then projects onto the earth. It's literal geometrical reversals of mathematical proportions of antiparticle and particle spins.
Wow. because for a long time, this dark feminine distortion, we've had a dark masculine distortion as well, of course, on this 3D matrix. The way I see it is that the masculine is distorted, the feminine is distorted, and it creates this kind of weird, almost like war between the masculine and feminine. It's been going on for a long time. You know, the goddess energy was banished thousands of years ago. Get rid of that goddess. Let's have a masculine patriarchal pyramid structure. And within that, of course, we have distortions of both masculine and feminine. And it feels like that war is now, finally that war is starting to come to an end slowly. I mean, it hasn't completely ended, but it's kind of coming that way. That's the way I feel it. There's a lot of movement towards, let's clear the distortions. And so what you're saying is that this is part, I guess what you're saying is this is part of creating that distortion of the war of the genders, that conflict, which is just a complete delusion, really, but painful one.
Yes, exactly. Because if the female's running reversals, it's not going to combat the male aspect, which need to be running together in a sacred union. So that's the Godhead, the mother, father, God. But if they take part of that, which they've done with the mother aspect through the dark matter technology, through the polarization and the magnetic field poles in this planetary system, what happens is then the distorted female creates the distorted male, and then it just goes back and forth, like you said. It's both from the moon. It's literally all coming from the moon, and it's keeping people in mind control. It's ruining relationships. But like you said, there is good energy. The solar Christ female is taking her place back. She's taking her staff back. We're realigning the reversal currents right now. So it's nothing to fear. It's just having an awareness that maybe you don't want to be worshiping something such as a satellite that is the cause of the crucifixion of our planet, the damage of our planet, you know?
Yeah. Well, I kind of, in all my meditations, I teach the solar Gaia circuit, which is the true circuit, I think, which is the Earth Sun. And within the Earth Sun, there's plenty of feminine energy. You know, a lot of the original goddesses were goddesses of the sun. Actually, from what I understand, Allah and Yahweh were moon gods originally. And the solar goddesses got booted out. You know, the satanic verses, you remember that? Remember that thing, the satanic verses? That guy who wrote the book, the satanic verses. The satanic verses was talking about the solar goddess. And then what's the guy, Muhammad, recanted, said that Satan has put it in my mind. No, she's terrible, get rid of her. And this is the thing that, of course, Islam doesn't like to be referred to, that original text, that actually the solar goddess was actually great, you know, and Allah was the moon god and elbowed out the feminine. So in a lot of my meditations, I've got the solar goddesses, which I feel there's a lot of them around to connect to. And you can really connect to the feminine energies of the sun. I've also got this moon magic reversal meditation, but I'm really curious, what would you say to clients coming to you saying, hey, the moon is affecting me. How do I get rid of it? What do I do? How do I stop it affecting my cycles and my being, you know?
Yeah, so there's lunar implants. So the moon with the reversals, since we're part of Gaia, we're part of the earth, we take on the reversals within our own bodies. So our job is to clear out reversals within our own Kathara grid, our own 12D grid. So that's all about bringing in higher frequency, aligning to your 12D Christos avatar self. So it takes work. There's really no one way to do it. You have to use certain techniques, certain things to help bring in higher 12D Christ avatar frequencies of the Godhead. But you know, you can do things such as your meditation that you posted. If someone were to come to me personally, I would take them through shielding techniques. I would take them through liquid crystalline light cleanses of their entire field, just imagining your whole body being cleansed in crystalline white light to help clear any of those distortions, any of those black goo, black crystal inverted currents within your system itself. But there's tons of different ways. There's really not one way.
Amazing. Well, let's get on to the women and the menstrual cycle, because this is the thing I hear a lot, you know, and I can't answer. I haven't got a womb, so I can't say I can really know about it. My partner says to me, when are we going to change this? The moon she gets affected by the moon. And I think in the Barbara Marciniak books, she talked about, the Pleiadians talked about women really aligning with the solar cycle, which I guess would mean once a year they will be fertile. And then it's not like every month you have to go through this crazy thing, which it must be mad, you know. I'm glad I'm a man in this lifetime. I want to go through all that every month, but if I go for it once a year, I guess that would be a lot better. What about this distortion and the feminine cycle? What about that?
Yeah, so the distortion is coming from the dark mother, the spawn, the dark demonic witch woman who eats her children, who decapitates her husband. That's the dark, dark mother. And what's happened is they've reversed it so much so that when the moon, the full moon or the new moon comes about, it affects us in a way because of where they positioned it in the grid. It pulls on certain parts of our body. And until we fully start activating within ourselves, the higher strand content, the higher 12th and above frequency, it's going to be aligning just naturally to the reversal currents, to the distorted female. So we have to heal that distortion. We have to heal that distorted female. I used to align my periods. I wanted my menstrual cycles to be with the moon. I thought it was something cool. I was like, oh, it's, the full moon means this with your period and the new moons means this. But I think the more we activate, the more what's happening right now is there's higher frequency coming in from the higher grid that are finally able to enter into this time matrix. Yeah. So it's all of those reversal currents, whether it's from the moon, from the AI, it's starting to go back into its organic state. So that affects us as well, since we're part of this time system. So like for me, it just happened naturally. It literally was like one day I was worshiping the moon and my cycles were aligning to it. The next, I said no more. I said, I do not consent. I am aligning to my Christ female staff within me. It's an intention, it's a declaration, it's a consciousness change from the lunar moon to the solar Christ female. You have to actually make that dedication in order to really make a shift, I believe.
Well, this is kind of a side question, but what comes up in my mind is around, because one of the things I think is creating a lot of suffering on the planet is unconscious sexuality. People getting drunk, or, somebody having a baby and didn't want the baby, all this kind of weird stuff. But what seems to me, as these distortions are healing, that there's becoming a more conscious awareness of sexual energy, that actually, especially with conception, people are choosing to do it in an honoring way. I had a partner who, an ex-partner, I was with for 12 years, and her son, who's now 25, little starseed indigo, warrior child out there, and manifesting away. And I was with him since the age of 2.5. She conceived with this kind of beautiful, loving way, and she kind of knew immediately she conceived. And she said to me, the pregnancy was delightful. I'm like, really? Well, you loved it? She said, yes, I was like a big duck waddling around, but I loved it. And the birth was like an hour or something. And I thought, wow, that's a kind of example of perhaps going more to the conscious conception and birth. And what do you think about that as the distortions are healed? What's going to happen to sexuality and conception particularly?
Yes,
conception?
yes. So the distorted female is, it's the guilt, it's the shame, it's the prostitution. It's not the healthy, sacred sexual unions of the healthy female. So I see in the future there's going to be less distortion in the dark feminine lunar moon of the female, which could, manifest as just unconscious sex, unconscious creation, because the female also rules our creation. So not being so unconscious. See, that's what is happening, is the moon is controlling the subconscious mind, and whoever controls the subconscious mind controls the reality. So we're going to start becoming more conscious. What do I want to create? Not what frequency is telling me what to create from the moon or from whatever frequency outside. What do I, from my holographic projector, want to project out into my reality? I'm going to consciously bring back that female aspect of conscious creation, conscious sexuality, not being ashamed of sex. That's another thing, the distorted lunar, it's that shamefulness around periods. Women feel a lot of dirtiness, uncleanliness from the period. They feel just so much deep rooted shame from massacres in our planetary history, the Christed females getting breeded from the fallen Anunnaki, who have totally distorted and abused and raped the female. So I feel like in the future, it's just going to be that sacredness of birth. My sister's actually pregnant right now. She's having a little crystal starseed.
Wow.
And yeah, we're bringing in that conscious birth into reality of her, you know, doing hypnotherapy, imagining the birth going amazing, imagining this beautiful child, feeling so happy to be pregnant, you know, compared to the distortion. Like my mom was in the distorted female, you know, she did not want kids. She was like, you know, I should have never had you guys. Like she had so much, you know, guilt that was onto me. Like, you know, for so long I was like, maybe I shouldn't have kids, you know, kids are not a blessing. That's what I thought. I was like, they're just more energy, more stress. Because again, it's that distortion of the female. So the females, I feel like, are going to take their place back as the birthers, as the creators, not just in the female body either. You too, you know, the men have the creative feminine energy to create as well, and birth ideas and birth things and put into action, you know, beautiful. In a sacred way.
Well, I've got 4 grandchildren, all daughters, granddaughters, 4 of them.
Aww.
And the oldest one is getting into crystals. I'm going to keep buying her crystals, granddad crystals. And they all kind of look at me like they're really curious about all the kind of stuff, but they're slightly, granddad, you kind of, I remember talking to them about talking to trees, and they looked at me going, is this for real? She was about 5 or 6. She goes, is this for real, granddad? And I was saying, they should teach you that in school, you know, but she said, no, they don't teach me that in school. No. I have great fun with them. They are lovely. Well, let me ask you about your work, Island. Can you just say something about the work you're doing right now?
Yes. So I'm teaching ascension mechanics. I'm teaching all about planetary grid systems, our own inner Cathara grid 12D system. I'm teaching about ancient galactic history all through my YouTube channel so that you can have an understanding of how this universe works, how your inner universe works, and how you can really bring in your Christ avatar self, which is your angelic 12-strand DNA template that has been distorted, unfortunately, in this field, in this time matrix. And then I help people personally through hypnotherapy to help take them on journeys back home within themselves, healing, doing different energy work within the grid system, and also, you know, just healing any dis-ease in the body, any trauma, anything that has been causing you issues in your life, any subconscious belief systems that might be holding you back.
Sounds good. Well, look, we're going to put this up soon, and there'll be a link to your Facebook and YouTube channel. Do check Island out and all this amazing material she's got out there. I've been listening to it. It's great material. So
thank you.
Thanks, Island. Thanks for chatting with me.
Yes, of course. You have a good day.